Chapter 5. Turn back with me. You'll see when Moses first comes to Pharaoh. Exodus chapter 5, verse 1. After Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, "This is what the Lord, Yahweh, the God of Israel, says. Let my people go so that they may hold a festival to me in the desert." Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord, that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." You know how many gods Pharaoh knew? Egyptologists have studied and listed over 5,000 gods of Egypt. And you can bet that Pharaoh knew pretty much all of them. He was trained from his youth to know them. And he says, "But there's one God that I don't know. Yahweh? Who's that? You want to tell me he's the God of slaves? Ha! I don't know. What good has he done for you? I have never seen anything good for him." Well, now, 9 chapters later, what are the Egyptians saying? They're saying, "Yahweh is fighting for the Israelites. Let's flee." They now know who is the Lord. And that was God's purpose all along. Remember, back in chapter 14, verse 4, we read this earlier. "And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, but I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." Or look at verse 18. "The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen." And then you see it in verse 25. They know that he is the Lord. He's fighting against us. He is the greatest God. And it's not just the Egyptians who will get covered by the sea, but it's the Egyptians back home. It's all the Egyptians who watched as their king commanded them to take the Hebrew babies and throw them in the Nile River and bring them to their death. It was the people who looked over them and didn't care. And now they know that the God of Israel is the Lord, as they see that their whole army, the greatest army of the 15th century BC, has just been decimated, has been destroyed, has itself been drowned in the sea. God has said, "You want to take war on me, I will take war on you." And this is who God is. We sometimes want to separate God from the passages that focus on his wrath. We like this idea of a God of grace. He is a God of grace. The Israelites saw grace here. Even as they complained, he didn't say, "Oh, you're complaining, let me throw the sea over you." He didn't find, okay, who are the people who are leading the complaints? Let's have them toward the back, closer to the Egyptians, so that the sea will cover them over. No, God dealt with them for 40 years. He put up with their complaining. God is a God of grace, but he's also a God of justice. If you are like an Egyptian, if you are someone who has a disregard for life, judgment will come. This is a truth of Scripture. But if you are a person in need, if you are a person in a tight spot, Jesus says that God will humble those who are exalted, and he will exalt those who are humble. Are you humble before him? Are you like Moses? Will you choose to be like Moses and say, "This is my God. This is who I will follow"? I don't know where God has me in life exactly. I don't know if I'm like the Israelites a generation earlier, where I still have years to go before God brings me up out of slavery, or if I'm like the Israelites backed up against the Red Sea. Sometimes I think when we get in those tight spots, the tighter it gets, the better things are. That's the time where we really need to have faith. That's the time where we need to say, "I know God's power, and I know his goodness, and he is going to bless me." And so, God is worthy of our faith. Look at how this passage ends in verse 31. And when the Israelites saw the great power the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and put their trust in him and in Moses his servant. That's what God's looking for. That's what he's looking for as you're in your tight spot. Put your trust in him. Fear him. Say, I don't want to stray from his path for me. I don't want to try to get out of this job or out of this marriage or out of this community or whatever it might be because I'm afraid of what I'm in. I want to follow God. Does God want me to move out of the situation I'm in? Is God calling me to cross through a Red Sea? If not, I'm going to stay here. What is God calling you to do in your life? He's calling you to trust him and to take those steps of faith. Sometimes it can be faith to remain where you are, and sometimes it can be faith to remove. But faith has to be the key to whatever action you take. Put your trust in him. Fear the Lord. Fear going astray. Israel will face God's judgment because here they put their trust in him. But, soon after, that trust is going to fade away. They're going to, they're so used to worshiping cattle in Egypt that they're going to build golden calves when Moses disappears for 40 days. And they're going to worship them. We can't be that way. We can't respond that way. There are, 4 different ways we can respond to being in a tight spot. You can be like the Egyptians and try to fight your way out. You can be like the Israelites would have been if they weren't cornered and flee your way out. You can be like the Israelites were in verses 11 and 12 and fuss and complain. Or you can be like Moses and act in faith that God is going to do the impossible. I'm going to choose that last option. Will you join me? As we close, I want to invite the worship team up, and we're going to have a time of prayer. And specifically, I want to invite people to come to the front who are in a tight spot. Just, you can come up in front of the front row and stand or kneel in the front. And I want to invite the prayer team to come and pray for anyone who might come up to the front. And we're going to do some business with God. God has brought us into tight spots in life. And we're going to pray, God, give me the faith to respond to this. God, help me to take the right steps. And we're going to lift up our eyes and see the God who is a God of power and a God of love. And we're going to trust him that he is who he says he is. So I just want to invite you to come forward now, and I'm going to say a prayer right here. God,